I used to think rest was a luxury, a thing to earn when work was done. But now I see, in newborn light, that slowing down is holding tight. The house can wait, the floors can stay. The world moves fast, but not today. He's only small for just so long, and these days hum a softer song. The to-do list is always near, but sweeter things are growing here. The sleepy sighs, the tiny feet, the moments quiet, raw, and sweet. This season's hard, I won't pretend, but even hard things gently end. So I'll be here and do my best to hold this time and call it rest. I shared that poem over on my Instagram a while back as sort of just my honest reflection of this recent newborn season now that we are on the other side of it. And it really represents my sort of attitude or forethought going into this season, especially the postpartum season, the first few weeks. I really wanted to be intentional to rest. And I hope that as you're watching this video that if you don't get anything else from it, that you take that away, that it is okay, it is intended, it is good for you to rest during those first few weeks. The fourth trimester, it is a real thing. There is so much going on, so many changes, and I really believe that one of the best things you can do is rest your body, bond with your baby, and I found that to be so helpful this time around, which leads me to the topic of this video, which is all things postpartum. I'm going to talk about practical things as far as healing physically, healing emotionally, mentally, as well as things that I did this time around that I wish I had known or wish I had done the first time when I had my first baby. So if you are a new mom, first time mom, if this is your first, second, third baby, if you are gearing up for that postpartum season, I really hope that this video is just a helpful resource for you, that it is encouraging. If you are new here to my channel, welcome. My name is Laura and I share all about motherhood and homemaking here on YouTube. I really enjoy sharing cozy vlogs combined with honest motherhood encouragement, and really just hope that when you're here on my channel watching my videos, that it's all just a breath of fresh air. That's really what I want here for this space, just to be encouraging, inspiring, and motivating for you in your own motherhood journey. I have a almost 2-year-old and 4-month-old, so we're still in that busy 2 under 2 season and just learning lots along the way. So if you're new, I would love for you to join me, subscribe. I share new videos here every single Wednesday. If you need to pause to grab yourself a fun beverage, a tea, a coffee, I would encourage you to do so. I have my ginormous iced coffee. Look how big this is. I like to add a lot of ice, so it's not all coffee. It's only 2 shots of espresso, but grab yourself a beverage. We're just going to chit chat, and I'm going to share in a few different sections, starting with things that really helped me physically with healing. I think there's a lot of information out there, so I'm not going to go like too in depth because you have probably done research. You can probably find things that are going to be helpful. But I will say, when I had my first, I bought more than I actually needed or used. And I'll also just caveat that I did not have a C-section with either of my boys. So if you are having a planned C-section, then obviously some things will be different. But these are the things that I found really, really helpful both times around, things that I knew that I would want this second time. And hopefully we have more kids, and I know that these will be the first things on my list to grab. I'll link everything in the description box too if you're curious to check anything out further. But one thing I wanted to make sure and mention is I shared a postpartum prep vlog before I had my baby, obviously, and I shared in that video me making padsicles, which I used a ton with my first pregnancy, so I made them again this time. And for whatever reason, I just didn't use them. I didn't grab them. I don't know if it was because it was winter and I just didn't want cold things, whereas my first baby was born in the summer, so having like cold things was so refreshing. But I learned something super interesting about padsicles that I wish I had known the first time around, and it's that you're only supposed to use them for the first day or 2 after having your baby. The reason is because applying cold actually, I think, restricts blood flow. So it's good to do in the beginning, I guess, for swelling or just healing relief. But then after the next couple of days, you actually don't want cold because that's restricting blood flow, which prohibits healing. So you heal faster when your body isn't cold. And so that was so eye-opening, because I did find with my first, it took a lot longer, and I was using those padsicles for weeks because it was just hot. Honestly, it was a great way to cool down. And so this time I didn't use them at all. I planned to, but I just didn't, and I healed so much faster. So that's a tip that I will definitely be keeping in mind. I wanted to make sure that I shared that in case you didn't know, like me. I had no idea. A few other things that were so wonderful to have during the first couple weeks especially were loose clothing. I bought some special like lounge pants that were like, I got some things from Aerie before having Reed, because I just wanted cozy things, big like oversized sweatshirts. Again, he was born in the winter, so I wanted warm, cozy, just very loose fitting, comfortable clothing. I don't think you need to go crazy and like buy a whole new wardrobe, but having like one or two just pieces that you know will be really comfortable is really, really nice. Having so many hydrating beverages, I was just drinking stuff like crazy. Water, I try to drink water, but it just gets so boring, like just drinking plain old water. And having electrolytes is really helpful too for replenishing, especially if you're breastfeeding. And so I was going through these roar drinks like crazy. I love my Element electrolytes. I would just like fill my entire tumbler up with electrolyte mix and just sip on that all day, as well as of course water. And then I was super into protein shakes as well, either like the liquid ones or I would make them here at home. Smoothies, anything that has liquids is just so helpful. Bone broth, all the things are just, I mean, you just can't underestimate the benefits of being hydrated and fueling your body through liquids. I also found that Epsom salt baths were so wonderful during these first few weeks. It was something that I was doing at the end of my pregnancy as well for muscle relief and everything. But as far as healing goes, those were really helpful, and even just recovering like muscles and fatigue, magnesium, like helping with sleep. I found those to be really helpful. Adding like essential oil drops just feels very pampering as well, which is something that it's just nice to feel a little bit pampered in those first few weeks when you're just feeling like not even really like a human. Those first few weeks after having a baby can feel just so strange. You're almost just in your own bubble. Life is not normal. You have so many crazy hormones and you're sleep deprived. Having some things that are going to support you emotionally and mentally is going to be really helpful. For me, the main thing that I wanted this time was I called it my postpartum book or my postpartum read. I wanted a couple books that I could read. You spend so much time resting, laying down, sitting, and I don't want to just be scrolling on my phone or watching TV. So having books was really helpful. One specifically that I got, it came out, like I pre-ordered it and then it came out early March, I think. So I didn't have it like in the very, very beginning, but I read it within the first month, and it was this one by Whitney Newby called Lift Your Eyes. It is essentially I think 40-day devotional crafted just for moms, rooted in Psalm 121, and she shares short scripture-filled reflections, personal motherhood stories, her own watercolor artwork, which I absolutely love, and it really helped me to just look up from the mess and overwhelm and look to Jesus and find so much rest and peace in him, and just the truth that he is my sustainer, he is my helper, my provider, was so encouraging during that time. I think having someone to talk to is so helpful. This is when friends and family are just such a gift, and I was voice texting with my cousins during those first days. Of course, I had Silas, my husband, who was able to be with me off of work, and then even my parents were with us and my sister. So it was just really refreshing to be able to talk to people, because you're not really in your normal life seeing people. So voice texting or FaceTiming, if you're up for it, is helpful to just still have a little bit of connection, which also leads into accepting help. I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have help with having this second baby. I feel like our first, we would have managed okay, but this time around, it was just different. We dealt with some different things in this season that we didn't the first time around, going back to the hospital a few times, struggles with breastfeeding that we didn't have the first time. And so having our families here, friends come through, bringing meals, and people even like our family staying with us and helping with Danny, our toddler especially, was just it was just such an incredible blessing. So accepting help, I know with my first, I was a little bit more, I think, prideful and didn't want as much help, which I think also was one of the reasons that I didn't rest as much. And this time my perspective was totally different. I knew that we needed help, and I knew that it was my job to rest and invite all the help that anyone was willing to offer, pretty much. Having a designated spot or area where you are going to rest, for me, that was right here in our bedroom. I really wanted to be intentional to do the 5-5-5 rule. If you've not heard of this, it's like 5 days in bed, 5 days on the bed, and 5 days around the bed. If you ask my husband, he would say I did not do this perfectly this time around. I didn't quite make it, like, I wasn't super like literally on the bed or just around the bed. I was up and mobile a little bit quicker than that, but especially in the first week, lying down as much as possible was also something that I didn't know the first time around, that after you have a baby, of course your organs are displaced and your pelvic floor is weakened, and so being up on your feet walking puts so much pressure on your pelvic floor that can really have some serious ramifications. And so laying down, being actually horizontal, is so great. So I definitely was horizontal the first week, I would say, really just lying down. And then slowly, you know, I would get up, go to the couch, but I was still having places of rest. So having designated areas where you have your water bottle, you have some snacks, you have phone charger, you have your books or some sort of entertainment or something, having candles to make it kind of cozy, a warm blanket, these things just to make it such a cozy environment, having your diapers and your baby supplies right near you. I shared all of that setup in my postpartum vlog as well. And then also kind of along that is just, may sound silly and you maybe won't hear this in other vlogs about postpartum prep, but I think there's something to be said about just leaning into the season that your baby is born in. That maybe sounds weird, but I had a summer baby and I had a winter baby, and this time for my winter baby I was so excited. Leading up to his birth, I was so excited to just be cozy, totally embrace winter. The biggest snowstorm happened when he was born, the same weekend, and I thought it was just magical because we were able to go home. Thankfully we got home okay, go home and just chill and like hibernate, stay inside, stay cozy, have warm drinks, and it was just lovely. And the same thing when my baby was born, my first was in the summer. Getting outside, having rest areas more outside, soaking up the sunshine, getting vitamin D, opening the windows, letting the breeze in, I think was also just really, really refreshing. Having cooler beverages and hydrating with popsicles. So I think just kind of using the season to, I don't want to say romanticize, but postpartum is hard, it's messy. It is just a wacky season of life and lots of emotions and potentially some really hard things going on. And so I think just having some of those cozy comforts of the season is also just helpful. I hope that doesn't sound like weird or crazy. It's just from my own experience. Okay, time to talk practical with having littles. For us, of course, we were transitioning from 1 to 2 kids. So just a couple things that were really, really helpful with this transition in the first like month or so, and some even beyond that. First of all is having a baby wrap or a sling, something that you can put your baby in. I enjoy baby wearing. I wouldn't say I'm like crazy into it, but it's definitely helpful when I was first getting up and around because I still just wanted my baby close to me, but I was having to prepare food and get some snacks for my toddler and put him down for a nap. And so having a wrap is really wonderful. I'll link the ones that I've loved this time around. I never really found ones I liked with my first. This time I have, and I'm so thankful because it's really made a big difference. This next one is also going to depend on your situation and how you are feeling, but having a play date at your house for your toddler or your kid is, in my opinion, from my experience, really helpful. I had this time at least one close friend, maybe 2 close friends come by. They brought a meal, they brought my son's friend, and they got to play. We got to chat a little bit. They didn't stay like too long. It was just a refreshing visit. It wasn't like I was hosting them. You know, you have those friends that you can have over and it's like you can just hang out and you don't have to like put on a show for them or anything like that. And so that is really helpful for my toddler to have just some social interaction, because those first weeks we were not getting out of the house much at all. And it was just nice to have a little bit of a distraction for him, a little bit of fun, to have some interaction. But I definitely don't think that that is necessary. It's just something that if you're feeling up for it, as opposed to say going to the park or like going out, having friends over is a good option. If you use a sound machine or think that you will, having another one is helpful, because for us, our new baby was in our room. I still needed a sound machine in our toddler's room, so having two is a practical thing to keep in mind. Also, one-handed snacks that you can feed your toddler or just grab. I actually meal prepped some snacks for him, things like muffins. I made sure I had like applesauce pouches and things on hand for him, lots of fruit, so that I could just quickly pass him something if he was hungry. Having a toddler busy basket, I've heard it called, or like a morning basket, or even just something like a basket of special things that you can give your toddler when you're feeding the baby or when you have to get something done. I didn't do this like a ton. I thought I would a bit more, but our son was pretty content to just play with his toys when I needed him to. But having something like this could be a good tool to have set up beforehand. Just a few like quiet activities that they can do on their own, they don't need your help for, so that when you're tending to baby, they can be occupied and also having fun. Something I did do also was grab just a couple new toys for him, something that would be a little bit of a novelty, a little bit of, I don't know, a gift, something for him. I think that was also sweet to just make sure he knew he wasn't forgotten, that he could play with during those first few weeks. I think I also sort of hid some toys prior to baby coming so that they would be new, or did like a toy rotation, something like that you could do as well. Just having some things that you know will occupy them. And then another thing that was really helpful was having a diaper caddy on every level. For our house, it's I guess like 3 levels, so having kind of in your main living areas or wherever you think you'll be hanging out, having, you know, your diapers, your wipes, a change pad. This was great because I forgot how many diapers you go through with a newborn, but having them easily accessible so that if I'm with my toddler, we're, you know, downstairs playing, I don't have to go all the way upstairs to change him and come back. It was just easily accessible and made things a lot more simple. This last category is just simple tips, practical things to keep in mind that I either wish I had done with my first, or am just glad that I knew, or glad that I did. The first is using paper plates. We stocked up from Costco on paper plates. This was awesome. For like the first month, we basically were eating off of paper plates, and it was so helpful because of course we didn't have to do as many dishes, and it was helpful, you know, if we had family coming to visit or things like that, as opposed to then having more dishes to do. It was just paper plates, so easy to throw away. I know that is not the most environmental of me, but honestly, ask me if I care. In those first few weeks, it's like full-on survival mode, so paper plates were amazing. Along the same line, frozen meals, prepping freezer meals, having family and friends bring you meals, doing a meal train, all those things is so helpful. The last thing that you're going to want to do is cook or prepare food. It's the last thing that I wanted to do, and I'm so glad that I really didn't. For like the first month, I had stocked up so much on freezer meals. I didn't do this as much with my first. I was definitely more invested in like the nursery and all the baby gear and fun things, which I think is totally understandable, especially if you're a first-time mom. But this time I was all about practical. I shared like what I bought my baby the second time around. It was really hardly anything because I was just not into like buying all this stuff for him. I would much rather spend my time making freezer meals, prepping food, especially breakfast too. Do not forget about breakfast. When you wake up in the morning, you are so hungry. I was the most hungry in the morning, just ravenous, especially if you're breastfeeding. So having freezer meals, I did like 12 quiches, I think, in the freezer, as well as, you know, pancakes, muffins, things that are high in carbs. That's what I just knew I would want in those first couple of weeks. Even things like smoothie packs that you can just throw in the blender, especially if you're having a summer baby. That would be really refreshing. This is so very practical, but also really helpful, and it's just opening the windows every day, letting fresh air in. Those first weeks, I did not leave the house. I hardly left my bedroom. So opening the windows, just letting fresh air in is so helpful. I feel like when you're inside so much, it just starts to feel stale, and so getting fresh air, even though we were in the middle of winter, was still really helpful and beneficial. Also, stocking up on household items, things like laundry detergent, trash bags, all-purpose spray, and paper towels, things that you think you will use or things that you use every day, toothpaste even. That way you just don't have to worry about grabbing any of those things after baby comes. And the last thing that I want to leave you with, which maybe is the most important, is to let things be messy. This is not the time for perfectionism or having everything be really curated and aesthetic and Pinterest worthy, because it's just not reality. And it's okay if things are messy, if your house is not like it usually is. Mine certainly was not. It was, again, helpful to have family come help with like cleaning and laundry and things like that. So accepting help, again, is gonna be awesome. But I think we just need to take the pressure off when it comes to this type of postpartum season. There are seasons for everything, and this certainly is not the season to be, you know, Martha Stewarting it up and trying to curate a beautiful home and just staying perfectly on top of laundry and all of the cleaning, because it's just not realistic. It's just so far from being realistic, and that's okay. It's just a season. You'll get back into that rhythm again. I absolutely know you will. And just remember that you don't have to do it all. You don't have to do all the laundry, all the cleaning, all the chores, all the time in this season. You don't have to do it all to be a good mom. You need to be with your baby. You need to be bonding with them. And it is, you know, the first few weeks that you won't get back. And I think that they're just so special and so important. And it's okay for you to prioritize that. I truly hope that this video is helpful for you. Again, encouraging. If you are a mom, if you've gone through this season, I want you to comment down below, share with other moms your tips, anything that you would add to my list. I would appreciate that if you would share with other moms. I'm sure they would love reading through the comments. And again, if you are new and looking for a cozy little spot on the internet, I do hope that you will stick around. I share a lot of vlogs here on my channel, as well as a new series that I'm starting called Messy to Manageable. Now that we're on the other side of that 4th trimester, getting back into those home rhythms, sort of setting up our space for peace and coziness, not perfectionism, but just focusing on rhythms that are going to support my family, decluttering, organizing, things like that. So I would love for you to join me, subscribe, like this video if you enjoyed it. I hope it was an encouragement for you again, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Bye.